One step and I was on the other side of reality. What I saw changed me forever. The ending of this story is like a punch in the gut. Do not miss it. The first thing I saw was my wife's bare back, her skin slick with sweat and her hair a tangle of betrayal. I had frozen halfway through the doorway, standing just inside our bedroom, the air suddenly colder than death. She didn't notice me. Neither did the man between her legs. My own younger brother. Their rhythm was too focused, too practiced. I should have screamed, cursed, shattered something. But instead, my fingers found my phone, and with a stillness that felt alien, I pressed record. I backed away slowly, like I was dodging landmines, careful not to make a sound. But the moment I reached the hallway, I cleared my throat loud enough to cut glass. That did it. They exploded apart, fumbling with sheets in panic, like children caught stealing. My brother's face turned a ghostly white. I watched him scramble to pull on his pants I had just tossed out the window. He was about to bolt when I walked back into the room holding the 9mm pistol from my bedside safe. I didn't raise it, didn't aim. I didn't need to. The weight alone did all the talking. You knew she was mine, I told him, my voice flat, dead. His eyes darted everywhere but my face. He didn't say a word. I didn't give him time. I made him march, stark naked, down the hallway and out the front door. I could hear our neighbor's dog barking and a screen door creaking open. Good. Let them see. Let the world know what kind of man he was. She screamed after me, sobbing, her voice cracking through the house. I turned to her, hands still on the door. We'll talk when I get back, I said, and I meant it. I locked the bedroom door behind her before she could follow. As I stepped out into the street, I heard her make a call, her voice shrill and desperate, muttering a name I hadn't expected. My mother. I drove for hours that night, no destination in mind, just the engine growling under me and the pulse in my ears pounding louder than the radio. The betrayal wrapped around my chest like a vice, squeezing the air from my lungs. But I didn't cry. Couldn't. There was no sadness, only fire, only ash. For the next 3 days, I didn't sleep in the house. I holed up in the garage, surrounded by years of family photos and fragments of a life I thought was real. At first, I just stared at the photos, but soon I started seeing things I had missed before. Subtle signs in her eyes, slight distance in her posture during vacations, fake smiles at family dinners. My mind churned through the memories like gears grinding with rust. Then I started digging. Her phone backups were stored on our shared laptop. From those, I recovered dozens of chats, coded names, late-night messages, stupid inside jokes that made me want to rip my hair out. She had even used our home security system against me, turning it off during specific hours, always when I worked nights. So I pulled the security footage too, and it filled the gaps she thought she had buried. Men came and went, but the most consistent visitor was my brother. I called him the morning of the third day, told him to come over. No threats, no anger in my voice, just calm, too calm. When he walked in, I didn't offer a seat or drink. I placed a thick folder on the kitchen table, screenshots, footage stills, copies of her chats. You have one chance to avoid a public scandal, I said, and I meant it. I knew exactly how much he valued his image, his spotless record, his loving wife and 2 toddlers back home. He cracked in less than 5 minutes. The affair had lasted over a year. They'd even planned to run off together, some fantasy where they'd leave everything behind and start fresh in Colorado. He cried when he said it, eyes glossy with shame, voice trembling as he confessed. I recorded every damn word. Then I sent the file to 3 people, my father, my mother, and his wife. I thought about how our parents used to talk about us. The boys, 2 sons who had grown up sharing toys, secrets, and teenage bruises. Now one of us had burned it all to the ground, and the other one, me, was left sifting through the ashes with blood on his tongue. When I finally returned home, the house was quiet, too quiet. I stepped into the living room and saw her sitting there, bags packed neatly at her feet. Her face was pale, and her eyes didn't meet mine. I'm going to my mother's, she said. I didn't answer. I walked right past her and into Sophia's room, my daughter, my little girl. She was asleep, curled up with her favorite stuffed panda, soft breaths rising and falling in the silence. I sat down on the edge of the bed and watched her, feeling the weight of everything I still had to protect. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't blink. And in the morning, while she was gone, I filed for divorce. I attached everything: photos, texts, the confession. I gave it all to my lawyer, the man who'd helped us close on our house just 5 years ago. When he saw the evidence, he didn't ask questions, just nodded, grim. But my next move wasn't about lawyers. I wanted her to feel what I felt, not through rage, not through threats, through humiliation. I reached out to an old acquaintance, a man she used to date before me. He was single again, and I remembered the way she used to trash his name in front of her friends, always saying his new girlfriend, Rachel, was a bimbo and beneath her. So I made a few calls, arranged a little get-together. When she came back for her things, all dressed in sorrow and self-pity, I stood by the window and watched her freeze in place. There they were, her ex kissing Rachel in the driveway, her former best friend, the one woman she despised more than anyone else on earth. She dropped the box she was carrying, screamed his name like it would change anything, but he didn't look up. Neither of them did. I didn't open the door. I didn't say a word. And I didn't feel a damn thing, except maybe the faintest trace of justice starting to stir. The morning after she saw her ex kissing the one woman she hated more than any other, I expected silence, maybe an absence. But instead, she left the house without a word and returned hours later like nothing had happened. No begging, no accusations, just a hollow quiet, like she was walking through the wreckage trying to convince herself she could still breathe in it. I stayed out of sight, letting her pack whatever pieces of her broken dignity she could find. But that was the last quiet moment I had. 2 days later, I started getting calls. First from our mother, hers and mine. She'd managed to twist the truth into a new version of events. She told them I'd overreacted, that I'd humiliated her, that the affair wasn't what it looked like. She even claimed she and my brother were confused, that things had only started after a few drunken nights and were mostly emotional. My brother tried to back her up, probably out of fear. Coward. I let the calls go to voicemail. Then I sent a mass email with the video footage attached. Nothing else. No explanation. The silence that followed was beautiful. She wasn't done, though. She started showing up. First, it was just to pick up Sophia, but then it became more than that. She began leaving notes inside Sophia's lunchbox, scrawled apologies that were clearly meant for me. She baked cookies, my favorite kind, and left them on the porch. A box of them, warm. I fed them to the trash can. She started calling after school hours, pretending to ask about drop-off schedules, but I could hear her breath hitch each time I answered, like she thought she could slip her way back into normal just by being there enough. But the worst was the night she tried to come inside. Sophia had already gone to bed. I'd just finished brushing her hair and singing her that dumb lullaby she always requested, the one I used to hum when she was a baby, pressed against my chest. I opened the door and there she was, standing on the porch in a hoodie and jeans, hands stuffed deep in her pockets, eyes swollen from crying. "I just want to talk," she said, her voice trembling. "Please." I didn't say anything. I stepped aside just long enough to pull the door halfway closed and then stood in it like stone. "We can't," I said finally. "You know why." "I know," she said quickly, nodding. "But I've been thinking about us, about everything. You and Sophia. I was stupid, selfish. But I see it now, and I'd do anything, anything to undo what I did." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I couldn't stop myself. She thought a little clarity and some tears would reverse what she'd done after sleeping with my brother in our bed. I shook my head and closed the door without another word, but she didn't leave. I found her curled up on the porch the next morning, asleep against the railing. For a second, my gut twisted with something I couldn't name. Pity, maybe, or the memory of who she used to be. I stepped over her and went to work without waking her up. That day at work, my lawyer called. The custody battle was underway, and the evidence I'd submitted had shifted the momentum hard in my favor. My ex tried to argue that none of it affected her ability to parent, but the judge wasn't buying it. Business trips turned into suspicion, hotel receipts, private calls at odd hours, overnight stays in different cities with a man who wasn't her husband, or the father of her child. Every bit of it painted her as reckless and deceptive. We filed for full custody. When she got the notice, she lost it. The messages poured in, text after text, swinging between guilt-ridden apologies and threats about how I was turning Sophia against her. I didn't respond. I saved everything. My lawyer said the more she unraveled, the better. Then came the unexpected twist. A knock at the door one night, late enough to worry me. When I opened it, it wasn't her. It was my brother's wife. She looked hollowed out, gaunt and tired. In her hand was a manila envelope. "He left," she said. "Took off. Said he couldn't live with the guilt. Left this behind." Inside were printed emails, screenshots, even handwritten letters. Letters he had written to my ex during the early days of the affair. The bastard had called her the love of his life, had planned to move to another state with her, even scouted apartments in secret. And he'd lied to her too, told her he was ready to leave his wife, that they could start fresh. Classic snake. She broke down in front of me, sobbing into her hands. I didn't comfort her. Couldn't. But I let her sit for a while. When she asked if I hated her too, I just said, no, but I don't trust anyone anymore. The next morning, my ex was back. She saw the envelope in the trash, pulled it out and started reading. I watched her expression change. Confusion, then horror, then disbelief. For the first time, I saw her break not from guilt, but from realization. She wasn't just a cheater. She was a fool. My brother had lied to her, used her. The truth hit her like a punch to the chest. That night, she called and asked to meet. I didn't answer. The next day, she showed up again. This time, she wasn't crying. She looked different, harder, quieter, as if something inside her had finally cracked beyond repair. "I want to fix this," she said. "You can't," I replied. "It's not broken, it's destroyed." She didn't speak, just stood there in silence until I closed the door. I thought she'd give up, but she didn't. That week, she petitioned for joint custody again, desperate to claw back a piece of her old life. It was like watching a drowning woman pretend she knew how to swim. And deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. She had one more move to play. The custody hearing was just a week away when she tried to blindside me. I was sitting in the living room, watching Sophia scribble on a piece of construction paper while a cartoon buzzed in the background. The peace in the room didn't match the firestorm boiling outside those walls. Every text, every voicemail she left was more frantic than the last. Pleading, bargaining, even threatening. I didn't respond. I let her drown in the silence. I wasn't playing her game until she changed the rules. That Thursday evening, there was a knock at the door again. I expected a delivery, maybe the lawyer's courier. Instead, it was a man in a suit, early 40s, expensive haircut, sunglasses despite the dusk. "You John?" he asked. "Who's asking?" He handed me a letter. "You've been served." I didn't even have to open it to know what it was. She'd filed an emergency motion, claiming I was emotionally unstable, controlling, and using Sophia as a pawn. She wanted immediate shared custody until the court hearing. My lawyer called it a desperation play. I called it something worse. That night I barely slept. My daughter curled beside me, tiny and warm and breathing against my shoulder. I watched the ceiling for hours. She wanted to paint me as dangerous, as unfit. After she tore apart a family and slept with my brother? After I'd taken every damn step to keep our daughter safe and shielded from her filth? She wanted a war, so I gave her one. I compiled everything. More screenshots, voice messages where her tone slipped from sorrow to venom, even footage of her screaming outside the house one night when I refused to open the door. I handed it all to my attorney with one instruction: bury her, and that's when she made her next move. Friday night, around 11, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it until I saw the photo. Sophia, asleep in her bed, with a message underneath. "She deserves both her parents. You can't erase me." I bolted upstairs. My daughter was safe, thank God. But it wasn't the photo that shook me. It was the implication. She had someone watching us. Or she'd been inside while we were out. Maybe both. I checked every lock, every window, the backyard gate. Nothing broken, no signs of entry. She had a key. I'd changed the locks, but not the one on the back gate. That was on me. I called the police, told them about the photo. They took it seriously, opened an incident report, sent a patrol by the house twice that weekend. But unless she broke in or threatened violence, there was little they could do. My lawyer said it would help us in court, though, that it showed instability, but it didn't end there. Saturday morning, Sophia's school emailed me. Someone had submitted a change to her emergency contact list, removing my name and adding hers as the primary guardian. I drove straight there. The principal was apologetic, furious even, and promised to lock down the account. She'd used fake documentation, fabricated papers showing temporary custody approval. She was unraveling faster than I expected. The next time she showed up, I didn't wait behind the door. I met her outside. She stood at the foot of the porch, arms crossed, her face tight with panic and resolve. "This is my daughter, too." I stepped down, hands at my sides, not angry, just tired. "You're not getting inside. You're poisoning her against me." "She's 6, I said flatly. "She doesn't need poison. She remembers who tucked her in, who stayed when you didn't." Her lip trembled, and I could see it. Beneath all the pride and the frantic gestures, she knew she was losing. "I miss her. I miss us." "You don't understand, John. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You laid down with my brother, in our bed. Don't talk to me about what you meant." For a moment, she didn't move. Her face collapsed under the weight of her choices. Then she straightened, tried to mask it all with cold composure. "If I lose her," she whispered, "you lose me forever." I laughed once, dry and bitter. "That's the point." She walked off without another word. No crying this time, just silence. 3 days passed without contact. No texts, no drive-bys, no surprise notes. I started to think she'd finally given up, until I picked up Sophia from school on Tuesday. Her teacher, Miss Bennett, met me at the door with a strained smile. "Sophia had a visitor at lunch today. She said it was her aunt, but I checked the list, and there's no one approved with that name." My stomach dropped. She didn't leave school grounds, and the woman was only there 5 minutes. I already reported it to the office, and we've added a photo restriction. I just thought you should know. She was getting smarter. Not enough to win, but enough to worry me. I called the lawyer again. He filed for an emergency protection order. We attached the photo, the school report, and her attempt to override custody records. By the end of the day, it was granted. She was legally barred from approaching Sophia, the house, or the school until the hearing. That night, Sophia cried herself to sleep. She didn't understand why she couldn't see her mom. I didn't have the words to explain how some people throw away what matters most and then try to pretend they didn't. I held her until she went still, then went downstairs and poured a glass of bourbon I hadn't touched since the day I caught them. I sat in the dark and listened to the house, every creak, every hum of the fridge, every memory trapped in the walls. It wasn't over yet. She still had one more card to play, and I knew her well enough to feel it coming. She showed up at the courthouse alone. No lawyer, no backup. Just her, in a black blazer 2 sizes too thin, and the kind of smeared eyeliner that doesn't happen by accident. She walked in with her head high, like she still had a shot, like everything she'd done hadn't already caved in around her. I watched her from across the atrium, sitting next to my attorney, her eyes flicking to me again and again, desperate for a reaction. I gave her none. The judge reviewed everything. The evidence, the photos, the school report, the footage. The emergency protection order was upheld, and she was stripped of any unsupervised visitation until further psychological evaluation. It wasn't even close. She didn't cry, not in front of the judge, not even when the custody order was read out loud. But I saw her fingers shake, just barely, her last illusion snapping in her hands like dry paper. After the hearing, she followed me outside. I knew she would. "Please," she called out from behind, her heels clacking over the concrete. "Can we just talk? Not like this." I stopped. Let her catch up. She looked up at me with bloodshot eyes and a face trying too hard to stay composed. "I know I messed up, but I didn't know what I was throwing away. Not really. Not until I lost everything." "You didn't lose it," I said quietly. "You traded it." Her lip trembled, but she didn't back down. I want to make things right. I'll do therapy. I'll sign whatever you want. Just let me be part of her life again. I stared at her, at the woman who once made me laugh in grocery store aisles, who once cried in my arms the day Sophia was born, and who threw it all away for something she didn't even love. No, I said, and then I walked away, leaving her standing there, clutching her empty hands. But that wasn't the end. Not yet. A week later, she texted me again. Just 4 words. I need to see you. I ignored it. Then another. It's about Sophia. That one got my attention. I told her to meet me at a cafe halfway across town, somewhere public, somewhere neutral. I arrived 15 minutes early. She showed up 20 late. She slid into the booth across from me, her face thinner than I remembered, her clothes too loose. There was a desperation in her posture I hadn't seen before, not even when she was pleading for custody. I've been thinking a lot, she said, about who I became and why. I said nothing. I wanted to feel wanted. After Sophia, after we settled into the routine, I felt like a mom, a wife, not a woman. And he, your brother, he made me feel like I still mattered. I tilted my head. So it was my fault. No, she whispered. It was mine. All of it. The confession wasn't what struck me. It was the way she said it. Empty, like it cost her nothing now that she had nothing left to lose. I know it's too late for us. I do. But can you at least see me as someone who loved you once? I took a sip of coffee, leaned forward and met her gaze. Do you know who Sophia's biological mother is? She blinked. What? I let the silence linger, let the confusion settle, and then I smiled, cold and exact. You always said you hated my ex, said she was fake, manipulative, trash. Remember? Her face twisted. Why are you bringing her up? We had fertility issues, remember? Took us years to get pregnant, or so I let you believe. Her mouth parted slowly, the horror creeping in before she could stop it. You were never supposed to find out, but since you want honesty now, we did IVF. The eggs weren't yours. She choked. That's not. You're lying. I shook my head once. Calm, precise. Your body rejected the treatments, but I wanted a family, so I went back to someone who was still compatible, someone I trusted, someone who'd never betray me. No, Sophia's real mother is my ex, the one you always hated. We made that choice together, legally and privately, and you never knew. Tears welled up fast. She grabbed the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. You're lying. Am I? I stood, dropped a manila envelope on the table, copies of the IVF records, Sophia's birth documents, all redacted but official enough to sting. She didn't even open it. She just stared down at it, fingers trembling, lips quivering without words. She's not yours, I said, and this time I didn't whisper. And then I walked out. That was the last time I saw her. I heard she moved in with her mother, then left the state altogether. My brother never came back. His wife divorced him quietly, took the kids and disappeared. I never followed up, never needed to. Sophia's too young to understand the details and she never asked why the visit stopped. I think she already knew, in the way children do, through silence, through tension, through absence. I don't feed her the lies, but I don't pour her the truth either, not yet. As for me, I found something better, not revenge, not redemption, just peace. Her teacher, Miss Bennett, turned into more than I expected. A slow burn, a calm one. Someone who saw all the damage, all the cracks, and never tried to fill them, just stood beside them and held my hand. Some nights I still hear her crying from that courthouse hallway. Some mornings I still wake up expecting a voice that left a long time ago. But then I look at Sophia and I remember, I didn't lose a wife. I dodged a bullet. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.